So they're kind of like my children. I'm tucking them into bed, and then they're going to grow up big and strong and hopefully melt somebody's mouth, and that will make them happy.
Water these cacti over here. These big ones, they're pretty wet. Hey guys, welcome back to Little Z Farm. Obviously, I'm not at Little Z Farm. I am at the plant house here in Maryville, Missouri. I'm doing a series this month with the great people here at the plant house. Tim is one of those people. If you didn't see the episode last week, I will link it above and below so you can go check it out. You'll learn a little bit about succulents in that, so don't miss it. Today, we are going to focus on getting those peppers planted for the season. Tim, what are we looking at here today?
Okay, so what we're looking at here are some seed trays for our peppers. So what we do with peppers is we can either put them in individual little cells, or we can put them in a tray and where the roots all come together. So you need to start peppers 6 to 8 weeks before you're going to want to put them in the ground. So that is why we're starting them so early. You can do this if you're a little unsure about messing with the root ball. So when the plants come up in these, all of their roots are interconnected. So you basically take it out in one strip and you'll have a bunch of different plants all together, and you kind of have to like tear them apart. If you don't have experienced hands, or if you buy expensive seeds like super hots, you want individual cells so that way it's its own contained unit. This is faster, time saving, so if you have a lot to plant, then definitely go this route. If you don't have too much to plant, or you're, again, unsure about messing with the roots.
Yeah, so I did these last year, and I still consider myself like, you know, kind of new to gardening. I mean, I've done it for a few years. We used these last year. I was not comfortable doing that, but I know that a lot of people who have more experience use these and have great success. So what peppers do you guys plant here?
Well, we run the gamut. We go from like the sweet bell peppers, your green bell peppers, your yellows, and the reds, and all those, all the way up to the Carolina Reaper as far as hot ones. So, you know, in between you'll have like your jalapenos, your habaneros, your cayenne chilies, and all that. If you enjoy peppers at all, we have one probably that too.
When you guys, like, when you have all the peppers here, I know that this is not like all of the peppers. Do you know how many that you guys have?
10,000 or so, yeah, easily.
Okay, so let's talk about then like how you're planting these in bulk. I'm going to hop off screen because I want to make sure that we are like showing this properly. And let's take a look at what you're doing.
So to start off with, I am going to plant the Fooled You hybrid pepper. And what is interesting about the Fooled You is that it looks and tastes exactly like a jalapeno, but it doesn't have any bite. So the Fooled You name comes from basically if you want to play a joke on your friends, you could eat this pepper straight off the vine, well, straight off the plant, and you wouldn't suffer any consequences. They would be shocked, and it'd be a fun time. So,
Shocked, everyone.
shocked.
Do this with your friends.
But I do want to talk a little bit first about the tool I'm going to be using. In these trays, basically the essence of speed is what you are after. So this is a hand seeder. It is mechanized for the 21st century. It vibrates. So you push this little button, it makes a little buzzing sound. And what this does for you is you put your seeds into the little channel. And then you hit the button and you see how they kind of start to jump around a little bit. The idea is that it puts them all in a single file line, and then you can just quickly move through. Now, this is the first time I'm using the thing for this season, So it has been a while, so bear with me if I get some flops. You can see it is really pretty fast. And so that just did a few rows. Now I do have some gaps in here and stuff like that, but basically that's all you need to do. Another way you could save time with these trays is I fill the whole thing with soil, and then I take the next tray that's empty and I put it on top, and I just kind of push down lightly, and that creates the channels that you can put the seeds in. And then after you have the seeds in, you can go back through, sprinkle soil over the top and wet that down, so you don't have to like methodically push them in. Peppers typically have a very slow germination time. So, especially on these super hots, they can take 10 days or 2 weeks to even show anything. So you may think that you've killed them when in fact they're just taking a while. So like things like green beans, broccoli, kale, they'll come up immediately. But peppers take a good long while.
If you're me, you might have killed them, so.
Kind of all standard across the board for all peppers as far as planting them goes. I don't know if I touched on this, but you want your outside temperatures to be well above freezing, and you want your soil temperatures to be at least 50 degrees. So the temptation is there to buy your peppers early, plant them, and then they don't do anything for you. And that is why the ground was too cold. We had quite a few people make this mistake last year. Family of these type of plants, peppers, tomatoes, eggplant, they really do enjoy being transplanted.
They enjoy it?
So to speak. So like, if you give them direct sodies into the ground and give them basically an infinite soil volume to play with, they take forever to get going. But if you allow them to grow up, get little root mounds, and transplant them, and then allow them to grow up, get a little bit more root mound, then they really take off. So when they're in their pot that we sell them in, like they are ready for a much larger soil volume. This is the go button, basically a vibrator, so you just kind of tilt it, and you see how this stuff just slowly gets towards the edge. Now, you control the speed at which it flows out by tilting your wrist. So if it's going too fast, then just tilt your wrist up.
It's going too fast. It's going too fast.
So tilt your wrist up.
Okay.
And we can fix it. Yeah, that's yeah. You can also balance it on this. There you go.
I did it. I'm doing it. Did I do it?
Yeah, that's much more even than even I was doing it. Because if you look, I have clumps here, there. So like, I'll go back through with my fingers and just kind of like, you go here and move you over. And
this is actually like,
and it's fast. It's fine.
I talked recently in a video about how I am constantly afraid that I am doing something wrong. Oh, like now? But like, I feel like until you like try it, I don't know, you know, the best way to figure it out is just to do it. I did it, guys. I didn't ruin it. How hot is it in here right now?
Oh, at least 80, 85.
And if someone like me, I'm using grow lights in my basement. Like, do you recommend like a heat pad? Like, what should I do to, you know, best set myself up if that's what I'm working on?
That is an excellent question. So that is the actual next step with these peppers after we get them soiled over and watered in a little bit. I have a heat mat. We set it to 85, 86 because you lose a lot of temperature through the soil, and we put a little temperature probe in the dirt with them. And so long as you keep this above 60, these guys will jump up. If it drops much below the 50-degree mark, you may never see them at all. Another thing with freshly germinated peppers is they're very, very temperamental when it comes to watering. So if you let them dry out at all, they're done. If if they wilt in that very infantile stage, they will die. On a tray like this, we typically end up watering them every third day or so. With these, you kind of notice the edges will start to dry out first, and then you just lightly mist them. See, the thing about seedlings is they like evenly moist soil, and you cannot just drench them, so to speak. So we take the end off the hose and we lightly mist them so as not to disturb the soil, and we keep that even moisture all the way through until they're up and going. And peppers, especially, you have to keep them warm well after they've sprouted up, so you can't like, oh, they've sprouted, and then you remove them from your heat pad.
Okay, what are we doing differently in here?
So what we're doing differently in here, switching tracks a little bit, is planting in individual cells. And I do this with my super hots because they're an expensive seed. So I like to know how much germination I get out of them. And super hots, by their very nature, don't germinate very well. So this only has a germination rate of 74%, which is typically pretty low. You get, like, most of the time germination rates of high 80 to 90%. Nothing is 100%. You'll always have a seed that misses. So I'm gonna do Carolina Reaper, which is, I believe, the hottest pepper available for market with seeds. I could be wrong, so somebody could correct me if they, and then put a link so I can get a hold of them, because at the plant house we have a niche market of people that really enjoy hot peppers. So I'm gonna put it in this old seed spreader, hand seeder. It's just basically this thing without the motor on it. And now, because I am a chicken, I plant these with tweezers because there is some of the heat, well, quite a bit of the heat on the pepper seed itself. So I just drop a single seed in each of these. And so this is why if you have a lot to do, and trust me, 100 is a lot to do, you want to do the row tray with a vibro seeder, or even this where you could tilt it over and kind of tap on it to get the seeds to come out in a single file until time stops. As you could probably tell, this is not my favorite task to do. I love hot peppers. I love growing hot peppers. I love the hot pepper community. It's just, I don't fancy having capsaicin in my eye. These guys, just like the other peppers, have the same watering and heat requirements. I tend to baby these for a little bit longer just because well, I have to do all this with them, so they're kind of like my children. I'm tucking them into bed, and then they're gonna grow up big and strong, and hopefully melt somebody's mouth, and that will make them happy.
I'm back. I know you have some other steps that we need to do here, but when, you know, like if I was going to come here and buy a seedling to plant myself, I don't want to start them myself.
Okay.
I just want to buy them and put them into the ground. We are in zone, hardening zone 5B. I believe you're in that same.
Yes.
Okay. So when should I come here and buy them?
So peppers especially, you need to wait until late April, May, because that is when your ground temperatures are going to be high enough. And that ultimately depends upon the weather itself. So if you've had a cold, rainy spring, it may be pushed later into May. So that's when you want to come get them. I do not advocate folks buying them early and then saying that they're going to let them hang out in the garage. So don't do that. Even grow lights are different than sunlight. and that is also different than like the light you get through your window at home.
Right.
So if you're going to do that, but if you're going to do that, you want to do hardening off process where you stick them outside in the sun for put them back in.
Obviously, when people come to buy them, they're not in these. They're going to be transplanted into the larger pots.
So these we will transplant in probably 6 weeks. So basically, we try to go from seed to sale 8 weeks for peppers. Transplanting at home, you could do it in 6 weeks. But whenever you transplant something, that sets it back. So we like to give the plants a couple of weeks to get accustomed to the pot, and then make sure they're gonna survive. Transplant shock is a real thing with these guys.
So just another generic question, like in this like high season that we're going into for you guys, like how many people does it take to operate? Like, I mean, obviously we're just a very small amount of peppers that we're working on right now. Like all of this, like how many people and does it take to operate something like this?
In transplant season, it takes about 8 of us to get it done and done well. And then as we go through and things get busier, we transition from a transplant mode to more of a customer service mode. And that takes about the same amount of people, especially on Saturdays.
All right, I'm gonna let Tim finish up here, and then we're gonna show kind of the final steps to get these ready to, I guess, germinate, do their thing.
Only 12 more. Okay, so we've moved back to our seed room where we have a potting bench. This is where actually normally most of the stuff happens. Didn't have soil with me up front. So what you do when you finished putting your pepper seeds in your slot trays or your individual cups is you take a little bit of soil and just kind of bury them a little bit. And you don't want to get too deep because they don't like to push through too much soil. And the finer the products, the better. And just basically do it until you can barely see the seeds anymore. You just kind of shake it in and bury them. And then this will flatten out even more. It'll look weird until you water it, but it'll flatten out even more.
And then people like me are grateful that we can come by seedlings.
The last thing I did off camera, you always label it with a Sharpie or a paint marker to know what you have in here. If you don't use the whole tray necessarily, you can kind of paint marker in which side, what half you used.
All right, everyone. Thanks for watching today. Thank you, Tim, so much for kind of going through the ins and outs of getting those pepper seedlings started. I know I learned a lot. I hope you did too. If you want to learn more about the plant house, see what they're offering, they do have a website.
PlantHouseMaryville.com.
And if you can get in touch through there, also come visit here in Maryville, Missouri. And we're continuing this series over the next couple of weeks, so make sure that you tune back in on Wednesday to see more with Tim and Kelsey. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.